Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello listeners, and welcome back to the Nighttime Podcast's Encounters with Creeps series. If you're new to this, my name is Jordan, and Encounters with Creeps is a series in which my pal Madelanye Klein and I offer nighttime listeners a platform to share their far too many run-ins with people they consider to be creepy. Tonight, Madelanye and I are going to present the 18th volume of your Encounters with Creeps. Prepare to never look at pizza, running, private investigating, or vampires the same way again. Let's get into another round of Encounters with Creeps. Ms. Madelanye Klein, it's our favorite time of the bi-weekly, monthly, I guess?
Whenever we can make it.
We're here for creeps. But before we get into the creeps, let's hear about you. Anything going on? You reading any books? You going for long walks?
It's far too hot to be going for long walks and too smoky because Alberta's on fire. But yeah, I've been reading a little bit. I just read Party Monster. I've never seen the movie, but I read the book.
Do you recommend it?
I want to see the movie and see how, true to the story the movie stays to the book.
And then you'll decide if you recommend the book?
That's right.
Okay, it's a complicated recommendation.
It is. It's complicated. But no, other than that, I've been working a little bit on my own content. I wish I could sit down and work on it for a couple hours uninterrupted, but those days are long behind me.
That's a good way to look at it. But let's get into it. We're going to talk about encounters our listeners have had with creeps. We're also going to talk about some modern day creeps. And I want to start with one of the modern day creeps in the news. We'll react to this and then we'll get into the listener contributed stories. This one is a wild one. Have you ever gone to a massage therapist or a massage salon?
Salon? That's a weird word to describe a massage. Parlor. Parlor's weird too.
It's I've never done it before. I find...
You've never gotten a massage?
No, I don't know if I could. I feel like it's I don't want a man to give me a massage, but I also don't want a woman to do it. I just I don't want to do that.
Oh, I could never be a massage therapist because the thought of touching people all day actually grosses me out.
Okay.
But oh yeah, I love getting a massage.
Okay. And do you prefer having a man or a woman do it?
I think I've only ever had women do it.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't think if a man decides to be a massage therapist, I'm fairly trustworthy that he's not going to try anything.
Okay.
This is his job. This is his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm just a little bit too trusting.
Maybe.
But no, I've never had a bad experience. It's always been fantastic.
Okay. Well, some people in Toronto have had a bad experience, and it's not with a male massage therapist. It's actually with a female. A Toronto woman has been charged with voyeurism, and police suggest there may be many more victims. Listen to this news story. Let's react to this.
Well, police have made an arrest in a sexual assault investigation. 50-year-old Shua Lu is facing a count of voyeurism. Investigators say yesterday afternoon, a woman attended a spa near Bay and Gerrard, and while she was getting a massage, she noticed the employee was taking intimate photos of her. Police are concerned that there may be more victims, and they're asking anyone with information to contact them. And for more on this, we're joined right now by CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Okay, Steve, just your initial reaction to hearing about this.
Yeah, a little taken aback by it for sure. It's not often you hear about a voyeurism case, particularly when you've got the accused person being a woman. So voyeurism, by definition, is if you're taking recordings or images of a person who is in a private act and you do it without their consent. And it's typically done for a sexual purpose or sexual gratification. This is typically why people commit the act of voyeurism.
Okay, so this is, someone who was receiving a massage at the time. Mm-hmm. This isn't the first time, at least in recent weeks, that we've heard of something nefarious going on in these places.
Yeah, oftentimes you hear about a sexual assault in a massage parlor, but in this particular case, the allegations are, according to the Toronto Police, that this victim who was receiving massage happened to notice this 52-year-old woman who was allegedly taking intimate photos of her while that massage was taking place. So the police are very concerned, and in a situation like this, unless it's personal, where you have one victim, you might have many. So the police are concerned that there may be other victims, and they are asking that if you were at a massage parlor near Gerard and Bay, and you had some sort of inkling that something may not have been right, that spidey sense, the police are asking that you give them a call.
Yeah. You probably know better than me, but a lot of times at a massage parlor, you would undress like either completely or just to your underwear or something and lay on like your belly on a table and they're, doing their thing on your back.
From my experience, we go into the room and my girl's like, okay, I'm gonna leave. You like do your thing. So yeah, so you like, depending on what you're getting massaged, you like take your clothes off, lay on your belly on the bed, and there's always a sheet on there so you can like cover yourself. I'm sure that it's different everywhere, but like I could not imagine a massage where you just like lay there naked,
Okay.
completely exposed.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it seems like the person getting the massage felt something was weird and like either looked up or looked behind them or whatever and noticed the massager taking what's described as intimate photos, which is way different than photos. So you got to
Yes.
like whatever was happening. And can you imagine that moment? I'm sure she just freaked and screamed and ran out of there wearing a towel or something. Like that moment must have been horrifying. But
Oh,
like we heard in that news clip there is since this wasn't like a personal act of voyeurism, like someone spying on someone they know or whatever, it was random. Like this probably isn't the first time this 52-year-old woman took these kinds of photos.
and
And
like for what purpose?
yeah, and it's like I
Oh,
was surprised to hear that it's a woman doing it. I think if you trace this back, there is a man or men involved in this.
I was gonna say that, but we don't know. We don't know for sure. Weirdness does not discriminate, man, woman, in between.
Mhm.
Anyone can be a weirdo.
Yeah, that's a good
So,
point. No, I don't think it's going to be other victims coming forward. What will probably end up happening is the police will get, search warrants for computers and phones and all
mhm.
this stuff. They'll find other victims and connect the dots from there. I think that's probably how it'll end up happening. But that's scary. That's a modern day creep in the news. And this one works as a great segue to our talk because we often break up our listener contributed creep encounter stories into buckets or different segments. We're going to be hearing about creeps at work, and we're also going to be hearing about random encounters with creeps. So let's just jump right into them here. We got some real good ones. I know I'm going to please you with this tonight. Do you want to hear a random encounter with a creep, or do you want to hear about a creep at work?
Well, let's do creep at work first.
All right, good. I'm glad you
These are
said that.
always classic.
There are so many good work creeps tonight. Let's hear about Anna Maria's private investigator creep. Now, I've always wanted, like, my thought growing up, I used to think, like, I'd love to be a private investigator and, like, go undercover and do all this cool stuff. The
I think
closest I've
that
ever,
now.
yeah, I still think that. The closest I've got to doing that is being a podcaster. But Anna Marie, she pursued the work as a private investigator. All she got out of it was rubbing elbows with an absolute creep. Listen to the story of the private investigator Anna Maria worked with temporarily.
Hi, Jordan and Madeline. I'm a listener from California calling in to share my creep story from when I worked with a private investigator. So, I had just graduated from university and I got a bachelor's in criminology, law, and society. And I was looking for work in investigations, and I knew a private investigator from where I went to university, and she recommended this guy to me. So, we started talking, and he decided that we should go see the court systems, do some introductory lessons, and meet up for lunch. We did, and it seemed like it was going fine. He had taken me to a German place for lunch, and he said it's kind of a tradition that Germans drink a day beer. And so I said, okay, I like beer, so it was fine with me. But they bring out this huge glass, and of course I'm not going to finish it. But by the end of our lunch, he looks at me and he says, so, like, you gonna, like, chug the rest of that? And I laugh awkwardly, and I just take, like, one more big gulp, and he looks me dead in the eyes, and he says, good girl. And this should have been red flag number one, but I ignored it. And at the end of our meeting, he's like, "Can I hug you, please? Like, I just really want to hug you." And I said, "Okay." And I went along with it. Then we meet again to do a like stakeout.
Nice.
It was like 90 degrees that day. It was very hot. And I had to meet him an hour away from my house to then, like, at a Starbucks where he would go pick me up and take me to the location where we had to do our stakeout. So I was waiting at the Starbucks and I noticed a van pull up. And I don't think anything of it. I know we're going to be in a van, so I think, is that him? And then they had been there for around like 10 or 15 minutes at this point, so I figured, oh, it's probably not him. And he comes into the Starbucks, I finally realized, and we walk back to his car, and I realized it was the van that had been sitting out there for 10 or 15 minutes, which I thought was a little weird, but I still went with him. And we get to the place where we need to be outside this house. So we go into the back of the van, and I sit on the seat, and it's just horrible. So, like, I'm sitting on the seat and he is on the floor, and it's probably like 110 degrees in this van at this point. So he tells me, like, we're going to be here a while. You should make yourself comfortable. So, I mean, I agree. And he said, like, maybe you should take off your shoes, just relax. And I take off my shoes. And then he says, like, do you need help with your socks? And I think he's joking. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And he proceeds to take off my socks. He stared at my feet and proceeded to detail how pretty he thought they were. And I'm like, oh no. Okay. I ignore it and I put my feet up on the seat. And he keeps telling me, like, oh, come down, sit with me. I'm sure it's cooler down here. Like, just come sit with me. And I say no, like, I'm fine. And he gets a phone call. So when he answers it, as soon as he answers it and starts talking, he lunges towards my feet and he starts rubbing them. I'm freaking out at this point, and I tell him, like, no, thank you, no, thank you. And I pull my feet away and I proceed to put my socks back on and my shoes. And I figured, like, this has gone too far. Like, this is weird. And then he starts talking to me about how him and his wife are not doing well and they're going to get a divorce, and she just married him for a green card. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. He then starts telling me that my partner and I won't work out in this line of work. Like, you have to travel too much. There's just going to be too much going on. Like, I'm not going to be able to keep that relationship, basically. And I tell him, like, no, I think I'm fine. Like, he also proceeds to tell me how him and his friends go out into the woods and take illicit drugs and then become very touchy-feely with one another. And, suffice it to say, I got out of this. I stopped working with this guy. But the weird thing about the Starbucks, him waiting outside for that long, was that he had binoculars and a camera in there. I mean, we were doing a stakeout, and I kind of feel like he was probably watching me. So, thanks for listening.
Oh,
That's a roller coaster ride. That's just like, it's like a drop the whole
yeah.
way.
Oh, the trauma dumping.
It was this slow boil up of him, like, like, come down, sit on the floor with me, take off your socks, let me take off your socks. Then the phone rings, and he uses that as the opportunity to just, like, grab her feet and start rubbing them. Like, he's making if all those other things weren't his move, when the phone rings and he answers it, he's like, now I'm going to touch her feet.
I would have screamed.
And when that doesn't work out, it would be very hard to not, like, have a visceral reaction to someone touching my feet. I couldn't imagine it. Especially in that uncomfortable situation, like sitting like in the back of a van with, like, surrounded by, like, surveillance equipment. But when that doesn't work out, yeah, like you said, it's a trauma dump, which his trauma dump seemed to be like, I'm leaving my wife and you might as well leave your boyfriend because it's not going to work out. Like, we're doing this tonight. Give me your feet.
Like, I've asked this in numerous other episodes. Has that approach ever worked?
I can't imagine like the way this is described by Anna Marie. I don't see how this could ever be successful. That it is the clumsiest, most desperate, and off-putting and awkward move.
$10 says his wife has no idea they're about to divorce. She's probably like, oh, everything, like, I don't like him, but everything's fine.
I don't like him, but it's just like it's that way from now on.
Yeah. And then this PI continues to tell her that him and his friends go and do illicit drugs.
Yeah, that was like a really weird hook. Like, and how did that
Like,
come up?
is that an invitation? What's happening here?
He's making conversation. Like, oh, I can't rub your feet. Let me just, there's this thing I want to tell you about my friends and I do. We do cocaine and masturbate together in the woods. It's like, what are you, witches?
Right? Oh my God.
Yeah,
And yeah, in the woods, not a hotel, not someone's house, the woods.
The
Are you
creepiest
in high
place.
school?
Yeah, well, the creepiest place for like a group of grown men to do something like that would be in the woods.
I guess.
Like if it was in a hotel room, at least they
they
have
witches?
like some class. To do it in the woods.
Yeah, they're either high schoolers or witches.
So we just did a work creep. Let's do one more work creep, and then we'll move over to the random encounters. This is a shorter one, but it's good. It's good because it's bad. This is the story of a work creep at a pizza place with a very weird fetish. Listen to this one. You may not want to eat pizza after this.
I don't know.
It's gonna be a
It's gonna be
challenge.
pretty bad.
Hi, Jordan. Hi, Madeline. So I have a creepy boss story for you. I worked at a pizza place when I was about 17, and my boss came into the back room where we have all of our coats and stuff. When we come in the back door to start work, we put all our coats in that little room. He came in the back with a pizza paddle and asked me if he could smack my ass with the pizza paddle. And I said no. No.
No.
And he didn't like that answer, so he asked again. He said, please, like, can I just smack your ass like one time? And I said, no, like, absolutely not. And he starts pleading and just goes like, please, I really just want to see how it jiggles. And at that point, I was just blown away and disgusted. And I just had gotten there to start my shift, and I was only like 17 at the time and didn't really understand that I could report that as sexual harassment. So I just stayed and worked and, made my $15 of tips worth for the night and, just went home and kind of forgot about it, I guess. But listening to these encounters, that came back. So just another creepy boss story for you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.
There are a lot of creepy boss stories. You run into a creep at work, but man, like working the rest of the shift after declining to let someone hit you in the butt with a pizza paddle, that's a long night.
Like, people's food goes on that.
Everything about it is weird. And like, if you are going to ask someone to do that, can I hit you in the butt with a pizza paddle? If they say no once, you should not like rebut and challenge that.
Right.
Certainly not beg and plead.
I've worked in many restaurants, and I've had lots of close friends in restaurants. And like, if you're a close enough friend that they could run up and do that to you without asking and you not caring, fine. But like, if you have to ask,
yeah, then it's you should never have to ask. There's like a seventh sense that a human has where like the pizza paddle to the butt is the kind of thing that there should not be the question that you even have to ask.
No. If you have to ask, you should know the answer. And then to plead and beg after.
And explain why. I want to see how it jiggles. Like, it's getting worse.
Right? Oh, well, thank you for explaining. Go ahead. Like,
yeah. Oh, my misunderstanding. Yes,
Oh.
have at it.
That just reminds me of my first job was at Dairy Queen when I was like 14. And a bunch of us used to like whip each other with with the towel, like yeah, like towels
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever they were, and we all got in trouble.
Oh.
They're like, stop doing
Uh,
that.
Someone's gonna take it too far. And
Oh, we all had welts like everywhere.
oh, okay. I did like in the story that she also explained, like, she had to go on the rest of her shift for like $15 of tips, which is so true. Like, there are jobs where no amount of money is worth being like treated that way, but it's especially insulting when it's like a minimum wage job at a pizza place. It's probably so hot and
I was just gonna say
uncomfortable
that it's
and
probably
busy.
hot.
I bet you pizza places are like a treasure trove of creep stories. Like it just seems like kind of some of the people that I see working in pizza places, I think like I wouldn't want to be the young woman working here.
Anywhere you have a kitchen, you're gonna get weird kitchen staff.
Mhm.
Trust me.
Let's move away from the realm of work. Let's get on to some random encounters. We have a trilogy of stories related to running. Let's just go one after the other. Do you ever run? Are you into that sort of fitness? I know you walk with the baby. You roller
No,
skate.
I do rollerblade. I wish
Rollerblade.
I had roller skates. But
Hmm.
I can't believe this many people run for recreation. That sounds like a nightmare.
Well, yeah, why would you put yourself through it? But you know what? People don't only run. People will record and submit creep encounters related to running while running. Listen to this one. I get tired and have to catch my breath while listening to this runner running telling a creep encounter while about running story.
Hi, I'm calling from Virginia in the United States. I'm a big fan of your show. I love the Encounters with Creeps episodes. And a recent one about a runner that I'd listened to who sadly heard she stopped running after it was sucks. I run. I do ultra marathons, done 200 milers. I still run all the time. Right now I'm running.
Did she say
Um,
200 miles?
Many years ago, I was a corrections officer for a little bit. And we'd just come off of defensive tactics training. So it was fresh in my mind. And I was running in the woods one day, having a good time, enjoying myself. And I came around a corner, and a man had come flying down a hill. A little bit taller than me. I'm pretty tall and pretty big. He came flying down a hill, and he looked like he was about to lunge towards me. He just had this look to the point where I stopped running. I got into a defensive stance, got my hands up on my head like I was in a boxing stance, and he immediately stopped, kind of started shaking a little bit, and said, "Haha, just kidding." And I don't think I said anything to him, but he continued on, and I quickly continued on up the hill, pretty angrily at that point. But yeah, so I still run there. I run all the trails everywhere. But that's my very short encounter with submission. Anyway, thanks for your show. Have a good day.
Interesting. I'm impressed that she was able to record that holding her phone, speak clearly, and maintain the narrative while running. If I recorded a voicemail while running, it would be so humiliating and unintelligible.
I'd be breathing like a stuck pig.
I think, as far as what happened, she's out running somewhere, had just taken some kind of defensive course. It's by the sounds of it, a man is running down a hill after her as if he's going to grab her. And the way she describes it, she just stops dead in her tracks and squares up like ready to fight him. And he said, "I'm just joking." I think he made his move on a woman and realized, like, oh my God, she is going to kick the living shit out of me right now. What do I do?
He picked the wrong one that day.
Yeah, like she's running. He's probably thinking like she's running, she's going to be out of breath and it's going to be easy. And it's like, no, she stops, probably stone cold, not even breathing, just puts up her fists. And he's like, kidding.
And she's still not phased. Like, she was
Yeah.
angry at the time, and she's like, I still run there.
Yeah. And if I see him, I'm going to kick the living shit out of him.
As she should.
Yeah, that was cool. That was the first time I've ever gotten a voicemail from someone running. Good for you.
And
For
talking
staying
about
fit.
running. I like it.
Yeah, well, we're not getting. We still got a bunch more running. I'm just going to go from one to the other running story.
Okay.
Let's hear about this story we'll call Kenzie's creepy old man watches her run. And this one is one of the really cinematic stories. When I listen to this, if I added some background ambience and maybe a voice actor here and there, this could be like a short film. Listen to this story.
Hey guys, so luckily my creep encounter was not necessarily a close one, but it was close enough to leave me shaken to my core. One night I'm getting ready for bed and I notice that I am out of face wash. So God forbid I wake up with a breakout. I'm gonna run to the store. It's only 2 minutes away. I'm a single female. I live alone, so I go places by myself quite often. I get to the store and I always park next to the cart racks in the parking lots if I can, just to avoid any strangers parking next to my car. I watch way too much Law and Order, Criminal Minds, and listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, so I've learned a thing or two. And so I park next to the cart rack and I walk inside, get my face wash, walking back out to my car, and I can see an older, elderly gentleman getting out of his vehicle. He is also parked next to the cart rack, but he is on the opposite side and kind of like diagonal from me. But this gentleman he looks like he's in pretty bad shape, pretty bad health. He's has those arm canes that kind of wrap around your forearms, and he's very shaky, very hunched over. And he's just, very slowly walking towards the cart rack. And as I get closer to my car, I can kind of hear him saying something to me. It's about 10:45 at night at this point, so, very dark outside, and I kind of look around and we're the only ones in the parking lot. And so I don't want to get too close, and I kind of get to my car, I lean over just so I can try to hear him better, and he's asking me to come and help him get one of the motorized carts out of the cart rack. He's trying to tell me that it's stuck and he can't get it out on his own. But I just have a very weird, like eerie feeling in my gut. Um, I'm thinking it's very odd for this man to be in this bad of shape, going to the store this late at night by himself. So I act like I can't hear him, and I get in my car and I drive away. And I can't stop thinking about it. I call my mom. I start crying. I tell her how awful I feel. I would want someone to help my grandparents if they were at the store and needed it, and I just feel so awful. And she's telling me that you can never be too careful, and I did the right thing, and I just go about my night. Everything's fine. The next day, I decide to go on a run. I go run like in the same general direction, but I kind of switch up my route. Again, I've learned a thing or two, and I know not to stay on the same schedule. So I switch up my route and I decide to go down a side street. And it's a side street that I've gone down several times, but not, every single day. So I'm running down this side street, and all of a sudden, a car just whips into the driveway that I'm about to go across. And I stop in my tracks. It scares me. I'm shaking. I feel like I almost got hit by a car. So I stop in my tracks. I'm just kind of staring at this car, not knowing like if he's gonna turn around. Like, is that why he was going so fast? I don't know. But the car goes into park, and the driver's side door opens, and I can kind of see the driver's head like pop out of the car, and then it goes back in and sits down in the driver's seat. So I'm like, okay, like that's odd. And I still kind of, stand there for a second, and I get this same eerie feeling that I had the night before in the Walmart parking lot. Just a very weird feeling. And I look a little closer and I can see two eyes just looking at me in the rearview mirror. And that was enough for me to cross the street and start going back in the direction of my home. And while I'm running, I kind of look back and I notice like that's the same car from the parking lot last night. Like that's odd. What a coincidence. So I run a little bit farther, and I turn back around and I see that the driver has gotten out of his car and is leaning on the back end of the vehicle, just watching me. And it is indeed the same old man in very good health, just watching me go on a run. So that is my creep encounter. Be careful who you decide to help. You don't always have to be helpful, but you do always need to be kind. Just be cautious, change up your route. But yeah, that's my creep encounter. So thanks, guys.
Oh, that's got a bit of like Ted Bundy to it, because that's what Ted Bundy would do is he would feign injuries and ask people to help him move stuff to or from his car, and he would use that as the opportunity to grab them and tear them into the car and take them off to their death. When you hear this story, that's like it sounds like that's what she's describing occurring.
That's exactly what I thought of when she said he, looked disabled and needed help. whatever, getting this thing out. And
Mhm.
I thought, oof, Ted Bundy.
Yeah,
And
well,
oof,
the night before when she saw him, he was so like appeared to be so disabled that she was taken back by like, wow, like someone in this rough shape is alone at night going into, to Walmart or wherever. Like she was surprised by that. But then the next day when she sees him, seems perfectly fine leaning against the back of the car watching her run.
oh,
It's
that's
really weird, right?
and like good for her though. Sure, her spidey senses are like 12 out of 10.
Oh yeah. Well, you can hear it in her. For one, she has spidey sense, but in her voicemail, she also describes the steps she takes like just out of precaution. Like, I make sure I park next to the cart corral just so it's one less person parked next to me, and
Yeah.
I change up my route just 'cause. And so this seems like it's someone who not only has good spidey sense, but is like keenly aware of what's around them and also take steps to minimize the risk that they're in. So,
And it sounds like this was a big risk.
unless it's just a huge misunderstanding and she saw someone that looked like the guy from the night before, but that's a pretty big coincidence.
And that drove the same car.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, I think like he saw her, recognized her from the night before and followed her.
that's
He was like, here's my chance.
that's kind of what it sounds
She
like.
got away
And
once.
again, we're forgetting the fact that she said like this car almost hit me. Like it kind of like pulled into the driveway that she was crossing.
Oh,
So, like, what are the chances that the man from the night before lived in the house that she was running in front of and almost hit her, and is now not using his like weird like stilt things for mobility or whatever? This is
uh,
a.
like I'm
But then
not good
again,
with numbers, but the chances are not good.
yeah. But what other than like, just run off and leave us a voicemail? What could you do? Like, if you called the police and told them this story, you will sound like a nut.
They won't do anything.
No.
Like police don't do things about actual crimes that have been committed. So why would they do anything about that?
Hmm, that's a good point. Um, let's go to, oh man, we're moving on to the stories, but the next few are like some of my favorite creep encounter stories. Let's finish off our running trilogy. This one is going to take us to the other side of the world. It's going to take us to the Czech Republic. We're going to hear from a listener named Teddy who had a creep encounter near some mysterious ruins, again in the Czech Republic. Listen to this one. This is another cinematic story. When he tells the story, I envision it in my mind as something like Alfred Hitchcock meets H.P. Lovecraft meets just like a film noir. Listen to this one.
Hi guys, this might be a bit unusual because I'm from Europe, from the Czech Republic, but here I am, and I want to share my creep encounters or an encounter. So basically, I live in like a countryside area, like a small village, 500 people, surrounded by fields. I love going on walks, and I go every day at the same time. It's basically like a routine I have. I go usually right before the sunset or like nighttime, like night walks basically. And I go alone, so I suppose it's not the safest, but um, before this I hadn't had any bad experiences, I guess. But the story I'm about to tell you, it kind of shook me and it made me question whether I should maybe change up my routine a bit. So I'm going down this path, and to my right there is a wooded area with a sort of a rock formation or something, and it's always like creeped me out because it's like the area I live in is very flat. It's all fields, but suddenly there is like this huge rock. Anyway, suddenly I see this old man in his 70s, I suppose, emerge from the trees, and he's walking straight towards me, like perpendicularly to the way I was going. And but I took up my took off my headphones, and he started talking to me, and he started asking me where I live. So I told him I live in this village, and he was like, and where exactly do you live? Like, he started asking me very specific information, or like very specific questions about the place I lived, or the street even, I think. And I didn't want to disclose anything this personal, so I just like told him the general area I lived in, which I also a bit regret a bit, but whatever. I was panicking, and he started inching towards me, and he had one hand in his pocket, and I could see an outline of like an object, and I thought he had a knife or something. Like, I don't think he would have a gun, but maybe a knife. And he was getting closer, and I started walking on because I wanted to get rid of him. I didn't even want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to random people. And then he suddenly said, "Oh, I see you here every day I drive by. Like, I drive by and I see you and I remember you." I was like, "What?" And yeah, and then that was the point I was like panicking, very much panicking. So I kept going, and he was getting closer and closer, and by this point I was walking even outside like the path. I was like, he basically pushed me out of the path because I didn't want to be close to him, and I was very scared at the moment because like I was alone. I didn't know what he wanted to do, but I eventually, thankfully, lost him because we met a group of hikers, I think, and he started talking to them.
That's how it ends. I like his recording kind of just like sort of cut off, but I think he was for the most part done. But I'm left quite concerned about these hikers.
Who cares? They were not alone, and he was out of there.
Yeah, they had a fighting chance. He was out of there. Something about his story, I don't know if it's like this isolated area near this strange rock formation in the Czech Republic, or just like he had a very soft voice with like a subtle accent. It was just drawing me in. But then also, as he's telling the story, I'm just feeling myself like I'm stalked by this old man with something in his pocket who wants to know like very specific things about where I sleep at night.
And watches him every night.
I see you running here every night. I thought I would meet you. That story did it for me. That gave me the, like, I call it the heebie-jeebies. That gave me the heebie-jeebies.
That was like the opposite of the story before. The story before, she said, like, I never take the same route. I'm very aware. And he's like, I had my headphones in on my usual route. I go every night.
Alone at night, through the woods.
Oh.
And yeah.
Well, it sounds like he's in rural Czech Republic. So he never would have expected that. And being a man, he's like, I have nothing to worry about.
I don't know if it's a red herring, but why did he describe the rock structure?
I don't know.
It had no part of the story, but it just like, to me, it added, as far as storytelling goes, it added just this really cool setting because it's not like he's not walking alone through the woods in the Czech Republic. He's walking alone through the woods near a strange rock formation when this man like just emerges.
I think it's because he said it was a field. Everything else was field. And maybe this rock formation's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And this man just like appears from behind it, waiting for him.
Yeah, like as if he was maybe hiding out behind it. Yeah. I don't know. I just, that kind of little bit of flavor thrown into the story. Maybe that's what did it for me. I'm into like weird ruins and just like odd stuff you can find in the woods. So that part of the story like helped draw me in. Teddy, I appreciate you sending that all the way from the Czech Republic. That's very cool to get a creep encounter from so far away.
That is cool. And I can see why he likes to walk because I've been to the Czech Republic and it is beautiful. I didn't go very rural, but it is beautiful.
A small village of 500. before we get to the listener contributed stories, I want to tell you another modern day creep encounter. And this one, like, have you ever been to Magic Mountain in Moncton, New Brunswick?
No.
Magic Mountain is like an amusement park, mostly a water park with water slides, and there are rides and stuff. But more than a creep encounter, I guess you could call this a mass sex assault just occurred at Magic Mountain Water Park in Moncton, New Brunswick. I just have a short news article I'm going to read to you about it. A 25-year-old man was arrested this past Sunday after police responded to a sexual assault call at the Magic Mountain Water Park in Moncton, where at least 12 people were said to be impacted. In a news release, New Brunswick RCMP said officers learned that the man was groping people as he was walking about the park. There were at least 12 victims, some of who were under the age of 16, police said in their statement. Officers were able to locate the suspect, who police say is from India but currently residing in Halifax, and arrested him without incident. The man was later released from custody and is scheduled to appear in the Moncton Provincial Court on October 24th. Water parks they freak me out a little bit because there's just so many people so close and everyone's in bathing suits. This is the kind of stuff I'm scared of, but by the sounds of this article, this guy was like, who knows what he's doing, but he may have been walking around just like pinching people's butts or something. Like, what the hell is this? Groping.
Yeah, I don't know. Groping, like, that can be so broad, but none of it's good.
No.
The spectrum is all bad.
Yes, very bad. And I feel like if you're going around a water park in New Brunswick, groping men, women, and children, this guy was pretty lucky the RCMP showed up and not a couple dads.
An angry dad or two. He's lucky he left without a broken nose.
Yeah, 25-year-old guy and do it like actually, I don't know if you should hope for that, but it's like I'm kind of hoping it was like a mental health thing, like
yeah, and not like a malicious he's out until October. The court date isn't till October, so hopefully he's not high risk to reoffend.
Well, I would suggest he is. You don't just I feel like you go around a water park groping people.
Over 12
at least 12.
people.
I feel like you just need to be putting time out for more than a couple days.
Oh, it was probably a couple hours. And they're like, I'll see you in October. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
What an awful story.
Terrible.
But let's get into our listener contributed stories. Let's start with a random encounter. I call this one, What the F Did Amber Almost Get Involved In? This is another story in which someone's spidey sense seems to save them from trouble. The trouble it saved her from? I guess we'll have to use our imaginations, but as you'll hear in this story, she got kind of mixed up with some pretty nasty people. Here it comes.
Hi, Jordan and Madeline. This is Amber, and I'm coming from Texas. Been listening to Encounters with Creeps. I actually have one, and I have a really weird one. So, story starts off with my husband's uncle owned a lawn service, but he hires guys, of course, to help him, do these huge lands, huge properties. Well, anyways, one day my husband says to me, one of his workers, wants to hang out, go to a bar, have some drinks. You, me, him, and his wife. And these people are a lot older than us. I told him, yeah, I was like, I'm okay with that. Like, we can hang out with them. Let's go have a drink, be at the bar, and see how it goes. It'll be fun. So we end up to the bar, and this is one of his uncle's workers. My husband's uncle worker that works for him. So we go to the bar, and everything's good, and I'm talking to his wife, casual girl talk, and, her husband, instead of standing next to his wife, comes onto the other side of me, and I believe this is my right side. She's on my left side, and my husband left, I believe, either to the restroom or to get us a drink, another round. And that's when things started getting really weird. This guy starts making just weird comments to me. I kind of did the head tilt like a dog to the side because I was like, am I thinking wrong? Is he just like this? I don't know. It was just so weird. It was weird, very weird. And wife is standing there next to me and she's giggling and laughing. And this guy grabs my hair, pulls it, and says, "I like your hair." And at that point, that's when I kind of flipped. And his wife was giggling, and it felt so wrong and so weird and so just not right. It my core just said no. No. My husband came back and I told my husband, I said, "I do not feel comfortable. We need to leave like now. I'm not going to stay another minute with this man." I told him I would explain everything in the car. Just get me home. I don't want to be around these people. So on and so forth. We get in the car and I was on the verge of like maybe almost like crying from disgust. I think I was more shocked at the fact that his wife is right there standing next to me and she's laughing it off and giggling. So I told my husband's uncle, I told him the situation. I said, "I never want to be around that man. I've never felt so uncomfortable in my life. And don't get me wrong, I've had creeps hit on me, but that was probably the worst encounter with a creep in my entire life. Just the feeling of this man, it was insane." So fast forward, this is probably mid 2023. Um, this man ends up on our local news, arrested and charged with the murder of his 3-year-old son. I kind of cried a little bit, but at the same time, I was like, I knew there was something with this man, and I just could not shake it off seeing his face again on the news. And his wife stood by his side. And that's my encounter. I've never seen them ever again, never heard about them ever again, and that's the end of my encounter.
What I found interesting about that story is when she was describing like the actual encounter she had with the creep, it was like he came onto her, he grabbed her hair, which like all of it is wrong and awful, but her reaction was so strong. Like it was like I was so offended. I was so like it was the most disgusting thing that's ever happened. And I almost felt like a part of the way she told the story was like she sensed more that he was capable of more, and that what she experienced with the hair pulling or whatever it was just like the tip of the iceberg. And then, so she has her reaction, she leaves, never wants to see this guy again. And just like her spider sense was telling her, this guy was super bad news, way worse than pulling her hair at the bar, charged with
Ugh.
killing his kid.
Well, and the fact that he not only did that in front of his wife and she was like laughing and giggling, I don't know. He killed his kid, and like I have no other details about the case, but his wife is also bad news.
And what she said in the voicemail is when he was arrested or charged or whatever with murdering his kid, by the sounds of it, the wife supported him or stood by him throughout that as well. I couldn't find details in this case, and I don't really want to. I cannot stomach crimes against children, even from a research kind of perspective. It's still like I just cannot even go there. But this story, like from the very beginning, it's weird. Like these people that she doesn't really know wants to take her to the bar.
It's weird from the get-go.
Hair is like kind of a personal thing. I find, there's a couple things. If I'm at someone's house, if they make eggs, I won't eat eggs someone else makes. I need to make my own eggs. I find eggs are like a personal food. I'm
Okay.
similar about hair. If like we're friends and Madeline, if we're hanging out and you put your hand on my shoulder, I'd be just fine with that. But if you like touched my hair, I'd be like, whoa, like that's a
Whoa.
weird thing to do.
You're right.
Just like I wouldn't want you making me eggs, but I'd eat your toast and bacon if you made it.
That's so funny about the eggs. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I've never really thought about this before, but like, yeah, don't touch people's hair. That's
It
weird.
is like it's not a private place, but it's like it's more private than a lot of other areas.
You commented on my hair when we started streaming.
But you had a ridiculous hairdo. It wasn't like nice comments.
Well, I know, but still, it was a comment.
It was, yeah. It was addressing the elephant in the room.
This is called the disheveled mom.
It's fair. Well, I'm balding, so I'm not gonna. There's no. I'm not throwing stones your way. Don't worry.
Well, good.
Let's move on. This is getting weird. We got our final creep story of the night. This one's amazing in all the worst ways. This could easily be set aside for a Halloween special, but let's just do it right here. This is Elizabeth's convenience store vampire. Here it comes.
Hi. I'm a new listener, and I was listening to the recent Encounters with Creeps, and I have a few creep stories. I think a lot of women do. But the one I want to share with you today is, I think favorite is probably not a good word to use in regards to this, but I guess it's my most popular story to tell in group settings or when I'm talking with others that have worked retail or specifically worked in convenience stores. So I began working at a convenience store when I was probably 19 at the time. I might have still been 18. And I'm a friendly person, but I'm also kind of like, I'm sarcastic and I'm kind of rude. And so I would develop these regulars that found me really endearing, and they were usually the same type of person as me, just like kind of a sarcastic asshole. And I had this regular customer who he flirted with me. I would flirt with him. We'd pick on each other. It was what it was. So we kind of had, like that strange relationship with a customer service worker and someone that sees them regularly where they feel like they know you, but they really only know the work you. And so he did give me his phone number and he added me on Facebook or sent me a friend request. And I think I just kind of left it there for a little while. I don't know, maybe something subconsciously knew that it wasn't the best idea. So one day he comes in, and mind you, before this, we had not hung out outside of work. We had never, hooked up, hugged, nothing like that. Like it was just witty banter. He comes over to where I'm working and he's talking to me and he's just saying the craziest things. Like he is just talking a million miles an hour. He is just like, his eyes are as wide as they can be and dilated. And he's like, like breathing heavy. Like he looks wild, honestly, just like a feral being. And so he tells me that he wants to taste my blood, or it's something along those lines, or that he he thinks he's a vampire. I can't remember what it was specifically that he said, but something about tasting my blood. And I was just like, okay, you fucking freak. And so I'm telling him, he's like, come out to my truck, come out to my truck, come out to my truck. And I'm like, I'm not going to come out to your truck. I'm not going to do that. So he just says, okay, give me a hug and I'll get out of your hair and I'll leave you alone and I'll let you work. So I kind of lean and I give him this side hug. I'm just taken aback by this request and give him a little bit of a side hug. And this man bites me so hard. It leaves whelps on my neck that raise up in the pattern of his teeth. It was the craziest experience I've ever had with a customer. And it traumatized me. It's something I can look back and laugh at now, but it was traumatizing. That's such a strange thing. But okay, I'm running out of time. So I just wanted to let you have my creep story because it's interesting. Love the podcast. Thank you so much.
Elizabeth, why did you hug him at the end of that?
Why did you hug him?
Very early on, like well before he asked for that hug, I would have had like 911 already dialed on the phone. Like, what is going on here? She had what I call like kind of like a workmance, a customer mance, where it was this kind of flirty, friendly thing with a repeat customer. But by the sounds of it, it was a full moon and he was doing cocaine
Yeah, he was doing
and
something.
showed up like she said, wild-eyed and ready for what did like I don't even want to know what he wanted to do to her in that car or in his truck or whatever it is. Like, good Lord.
Oh, that's so strange and so dirty. Your mouth is so dirty. Don't bite
Hmm.
people. I would have
Don't
went and
bite
got a
strangers.
rabies shot.
Yeah, I should she like would you have called police in this case?
That is probably assault. Like,
I
and
think it is. Well,
especially,
I
ooh,
think any unwanted touching is, well, I don't know what it's like in her state, but I think like in Canada, like assault is just like unwanted contact.
I think so. Like, you can get charged. Like, if you spit on someone, that's assault.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
So,
if you touch someone, that's like don't touch me, and you like touch them. I think that even that could be assault. But
yeah.
I think like biting someone in the neck, clearly to the point
Oh,
that it leaves like welts. I've had we were talking about your daughter maybe teething, and I think back to times that when my kids were teething, and I'd get bites on my arms from them that were like the welts in the shape of their baby teeth. But
aw.
that's nothing compared to what a grown man who's coked up in the middle of the night at a convenience store is going to do to you.
And like a convenience store regular. This isn't like a bar or a restaurant. It's a gas station.
Yeah, it does make it worse, right?
It does.
Uh,
Oh, oh,
I can
so
imagine
weird.
like she's probably one of the few people that made him feel like good and special because she was being a good employee and trying to make people happy. He was out having this antisocial night. And I think he thought like, oh, Elizabeth at the convenience store, like I need
I'm gonna
her
go down
tonight.
there.
She didn't add me to Facebook. She didn't accept my request yet. And he
Oh,
went down and
as if that
thought,
what like no answer is an answer,
yeah,
dude.
exactly.
Don't go bite
Uh,
her.
yeah, but
Oh,
again, it was traumatizing for her, but she lived to tell about it, and it seems like she enjoys telling the story. I'm glad she shared it here.
me too. That was a I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, we've been through a lot though. Do you want to talk about, or do you want to try to choose? Again, we shouldn't say favorite creep encounter, but like a least worst creep encounter of everything we talked about tonight.
Well, it wasn't the least worst, but I like the vampire.
Yeah,
It like
it's
it's definitely like it's not a fun loving like lighthearted one by any means, but it's just so wild.
yeah, I think, yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with the story from the Czech Republic. And oddly, both of them kind of could be Halloween stories with the vampire for obvious reasons. But the Czech Republic one, where the guy just emerges from the woods near this rock formation, it kind of sounds a bit like a ghost story. So,
Well, his walk, I imagine, was giving like Michael Myers.
oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Just walking straight at him with maybe something in his pocket. Yeah. What a night. It's the listeners ramp this up every episode we do. I think I don't even know what volume this is. It's like 18. It's everyone builds upon the last. We have an infinite number of creep stories, but I implore people to continue sending them and we will continue playing them and reacting to them as we have been.
Oh, I can't wait. And I think I've said this before, maybe in like 2 or 3 episodes ago, but I would love to hear from people that have worked in strip clubs, either as like strippers or waitresses or bouncers, whoever. I follow this account on Instagram and they always ask questions. I have never worked in a strip club before, so I can never answer, but the answers they do get are just so unhinged. Like they just
Interesting.
asked, what's the most unhinged thing you've ever seen happen at the club? And some of the answers are so good. And I want these people to
Mm.
call it.
Not necessarily creep encounters, but it's I'm starting to get into the Halloween spirit. It's August. It's about to be August, so it's like we're getting there. Each year I do a special episode which is Nighttime's Haunted Listeners, which is a lot like Creep Encounters, except it's stories of encounters with the unknown, the unseen, ghosts, goblins, witches, haunted houses. I know listeners of the show have stories like that to share. It's not too early to send us stories of Halloween themed stories, so get at us with those as well.
Are we going to do an episode with Aaron Airport this year, like we did last year?
Yeah, we did last year. You and Aaron and I triple teamed a collection of ghost stories and haunted house stories. We're going to do that again this year for sure. And I've already got a couple stories set aside that listeners have sent in, but I'm opening the doors now for more. So if you've seen a ghost, been in a haunted house, I don't know, saw a zombie, I'd like to hear about that too.
I hope the private investigator that has drug-fueled seances in woods calls in.
Yeah, the witch. Well, this is kind of a Halloween special. We had that witch, we had the zombie, the goat. Yeah, it's
we're getting. I guess it's not even August, but yeah, you're right. We're getting to October, so is the season.
With that, we'll end it. Thanks for sitting through this with me, Madeline.
Oh, anytime.
I want to thank you for joining Madeline and I for this episode of Nighttime. And I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who took the time to share their creep encounters with us. These stories serve as a great reminder to keep our eyes open and our wits about us. If you listening have a story to share, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of more episodes on this series. We'd like to include your story. You can go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and share it with us now. The voice recorder is easy to use, and don't worry if you stumble, misspeak, or make any mistakes. I'll edit it before it goes to air and make sure we're all sounding our best. We're excited to hear from you. Now, before we part here, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to Monty Datta, who contributes the music for this episode, and LJ from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides my intro and outro voiceovers. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you to everyone who listens to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Marcia, Jacqueline, and Alia, I appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can help us out here in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money funds the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those new episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. Now until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.